Welcome to 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. Our goal is to showcase the stories of athletes and the community that supports them by being authentic about their journey. Here's your host, Jacoby Gillum.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm host always, Jacoby Gillum. This episode, we have Landon Milbourne, international basketball player that's doing more than just playing the game. He's writing books, he's starting companies with his family, he's helping teach athletes about their taxes and how to be professional athletes overseas. So much that this guy's doing. I don't know, he's not slowing down. Hope you enjoy his journey and let's get to it.
So the question I start with for everyone that comes on is, when you were younger as an athlete, what was one of your bigger dreams or goals you wanted to achieve?
Yeah, so my biggest goal growing up was I wanted to make it to the highest level, play in the NBA, and then make a good living off of my talent as a basketball player.
And so when you say make it to the highest level and make a living off that, what was your drive behind that? What was your motivation to want to be that person or to kind of have that lifestyle that we all think of being an athlete?
Well, most of it comes from my father. My father was a professional basketball player. He's been playing professional basketball since I was born. I got a chance to watch him in college when I was a young kid. He had me when he was in high school. My mom had me in high school and they were together. And he graduated and went to college and was a star athlete on the team then. So I was young, but still old enough to remember going to his games and watching him play. And then I was able to see, how people treated him and how the town treated him and all that little favoritism and the perks that came with being a star athlete. I got to witness that. And through his journey after he graduated college, he went overseas and played ball. And, we weren't together for the most part of our lives because him and my mother weren't married. But, when he came home in the off season, I spent a lot of time with him in the summer. And, I got to see, all the fun that we had together. And then when I was around my grandfather growing up, he was a sports fan, a big basketball fan. He always watched the Wizards. He always watched the Maryland Terrapins and, all the NBA games. And I was there watching with him. So I was able to see kind of two sides of it, being able to watch it from a fan's perspective on TV with my grandfather and then actually being a little bit closer to the game with my father, seeing the games and seeing, the kind of a bit of the lifestyle that came along with it. Even though he wasn't in the NBA, he was still playing at a high level overseas. So, I got to see a little bit more of that lifestyle when I was a kid. So, I wanted to partake in it, and I knew that, the talent was already in me, the gift was already in me because of him. So I just wanted to hone in on those skills and see how far I could take it.
Awesome. I love that. So kind of seeing him have that lifestyle when you dreamed of, getting to that point, what did you imagine it would be like before you had it?
I just imagined that I would for sure be able to take care of myself and my family financially. I knew I would be able to travel around the world, travel around the U.S., and I knew I would be playing on TV. I knew that certain level of fame would come with it. And I knew that I would be able to have the opportunity to surpass my father. And, every kid, every son at least, they always want to beat their dad or something. We used to play one-on-one when I was a kid, and he used to beat me. He never really took it easy on me. And, I always dreamt of the day that I would beat him fair and square and obviously surpass him in the career and do better and reach heights that, maybe he wasn't able to reach. And that was kind of like a motivation for me, and I was able to achieve a lot of those goals.
At what age did you beat him first?
The first time I beat him fair and square was going into my senior year. Going into my freshman year at Maryland. We trained in the summertime in Virginia. I have family in Virginia, and we had a setup there where we had a trainer and we had a gym. So I was training with the trainer twice a day. My dad was there staying with me, and we played one-on-one one day. We went into the gym and we was waiting on the trainer. He was running a little bit late. So we had the gym, we had the balls, and it was like, let's do it. So my uncle was there watching us, and we were playing one-on-one, and I beat him fair and square. And actually, the game-winning point was a dunk. I actually dunked on my dad. And then after that, that was the last time we played one-on-one. So we had played one-on-one since.
Made a poster?
Yeah, made him a poster.
That's what's up. So when you knew you kind of had this dream, you wanted to be like your pops, you wanted to kind of have that lifestyle, you wanted to be that athlete. How did you go about the journey to kind of putting yourself in the position to achieve that goal?
Well, it was kind of different for me because, like I said, my mother and father weren't together, so my mother raised me, and she doesn't really know too much about the business of basketball or what exactly the right moves to make. It's very critical at a young age that you make the right decisions and associate yourself with the right people. Fortunately for me, I was always playing pickup. I was always in the parks, and one day there was a tryout for the local team in the city that we lived in Georgia, and I went out for the tryout and I made the team. And one of the coaches there actually happened to be an assistant coach for the AAU team, the Georgia Stars. And I had no idea what AAU was at the time. This was when I was going into the 8th grade. I'm coming from where I'm from, Eastern Shore of Maryland. At that time, AAU wasn't very popular at all, so I had no idea what it was. And he kind of broke it down to me and explained it to me and told me that we would be traveling a lot, told me that the team that I would be trying out for was ranked 6th in the nation the previous summer. And it kind of sounded like, the opportunity that I really needed and wanted. So he agreed to take me out to the tryout if my mom would allow me to. She said, yeah. So I went and made that team as well. And so from that point is when I really got serious about it and saw that, this could really be something that could take me to where I want to go. I was on teammates with guys who were ranked in the top 10 in the nation. And, all this was new to me. I didn't know that they were ranking kids. I didn't know that you could get full scholarships off of AAU games. I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know anything about traveling and the tournaments that we were playing in. I didn't know anything about the shoes, the Nike and Adidas affiliations with the AAU teams and all the free gear. I had no idea. So all this was new to me, and it was great. I took advantage of it and really started training, started being serious about training every day and working on my game and really, trying to take every tournament serious and show those scouts that I'm worthy of getting a D1 scholarship.
So for me, I grew up with my mom raising me as well, and I know when it came to sports, she didn't understand how everything works. So for me, when I was like, hey, I want to go to this tournament, I want to go to this camp, she was like, why didn't you go do that? You playing for your high school team. Was it ever that for you? Like your mom was like, why are you doing this? Why you want to go do all that?
Yeah, she was. It was weird because it was kind of like because my mom's a single mom, and I have a little sister as well. So she was raising us on our own. And, with my father being overseas a lot, the father figure that I had that was, very close to me was my grandfather. And, to him, he's an entrepreneur. And, it's all about work with him. And, for him, he didn't really understand basketball as being like a job, kind of something that you need to focus on all day, every day to get better. And in the future, you get to see, the results of your hard work. He's like, your mom's a single mom. You need to be spending more time working. You should get a job. You should get a 9-to-5. You should get, you should get some money in and help your mom because she's a single mom, So it was that coming from him, and then from her, it was more so, I want you to be free and do what you want to do. I want you to go after this opportunity, but I want you to get your education. So she was more so focused on the education. She's like, if basketball can help you get an education, then fine. But as long as you get your education, I couldn't care less about a basketball career for you. So the whole purpose of us actually moving from the Eastern Shore of Maryland to Georgia was to help, make a better situation for me and my sister and my mom as well. to help us get, better educated and give us more opportunities and more, and broaden our eyes and broaden our barometer for success. And that's what she was focused on. So basketball was like, if that's what it's going to take to get you into school free, then so be it. But, her focus was, look, whether you have basketball or not, we're going to get you into college. And that's what it pretty much was with her. So
Definitely respect that. So as you're going on this journey, you're doing the AAU, you're kind of getting better as a basketball player on and off the court. How did you start to realize that this dream is coming closer to making it become reality when it comes to the offers of just, realizing that you're playing with some top tier guys and you're owning your own?
Yeah, well, I think it probably came when we actually started AAU, because to be honest, when I was in middle school, we were playing in the local leagues and the school leagues. I was dominating, and at that time, I wasn't training at all. It was just me, going off of playing in the park. And when I was in Maryland, my grandfather, he has a lot of land, and he put a basketball goal on in the backyard, and I used to play in the backyard by myself. So everything that I knew and all the skills that I had was strictly coming from playing on my own in the backyard and just playing in the park with my friends and my dad and stuff. So, but I was dominating my peers in the local leagues. But when I went and played in the AAU, I wasn't dominating. I was kind of average. So, for me, just looking at it like, my teammates, I got some teammates that are ranked in the top 10 in the nation, and I'm on the same team with these guys. I felt like, it was only a matter of time for me to surpass them. And all I had to do was just keep working hard and really just polish up my skills. So I made it a point to stay close to the AAU coach and stay close to the trainers and make sure that I took every opportunity that was there for me to just work out and really hone my skills. And after a while, I started noticing that, my coaches and people around the organization started favoring me a little bit more. And I started to see a lot of the recognition coming from high school as well. I started to see more scouts coming to the games in high school, because when you're in AAU and you're playing in tournaments, there's scouts. The stands are filled with scouts, especially if you're on a good team. But you don't necessarily know who they're looking at, but in high school, if you're the best guy on the team and no other player is really, having offers and anything like that, and then you start to see college scouts in the stand and guys coming in with polo shirts with the logos on them, then I started to see, okay, these guys are actually here to watch me play. So that's when I really realized, like, okay, this is really happening. This is something that's going to happen. Now I can really sit back and kind of choose what school I want to go to, because it looks like I'm going to have some options pretty soon. And then the letters started to come in. And, the first college letter that I got was from like Nebraska or something like that. And it wasn't really a big deal to my peers, but it was a big deal to me, because I'm like, I never had a letter before. But, I told my teammates in AAU, and they're like, okay, like, that's one letter, but just wait till the summer's over, and you'll see how many letters is coming in. I'm like, okay. So when the summer was over with, I think it was the summer going into my sophomore year in high school, it was like the mailbox couldn't hold the letters anymore, and it was getting ridiculous to the point where I had like 2 trash bags full of college letters from all over the country. And for me, it was like, I'm from Maryland. I grew up watching the Maryland, University of Maryland, playing basketball, and I always wanted to go back home. I was always homesick. I always tried to visit home as much as possible. So I was like, if I ever get a letter from the University of Maryland, I'm going. So all those letters that I got, all those trash bags full of letters, it never really mattered to me once I got past the fact that I was being sought after. It then became like, okay, I want to get to Maryland, because I haven't received a letter from Maryland yet. That's where I want to go. So I'm gonna keep working hard until I make that happen. And that, from that point, it was just, I need to get the attention from the Maryland scouts. And I just, every step along the way just made my situation a little bit more serious. And made me work that much harder. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't approach me or send me anything early on, because, you know, I don't know if it would have been as motivating for me if I would have got what I wanted early. I'm kind of glad that it happened a little bit later, and it helped push me to that point.
I really love that last part. You say you're glad that it didn't come early. So for those listening, what do you mean by that you're glad it didn't come early on in your journey? Like, imagine like that first letter was Maryland. How that have changed your journey, you think?
I'm not sure, actually. You know, because when I finally got what I wanted, I didn't stop working hard. It was just like a little bit of clarity for me, because I knew exactly what I was going into. And a lot of times when you're speaking to coaches and you're speaking to scouts, they tell you one thing, you know, they tell you different things. You know, some teams are looking for certain positions. Some teams are looking for certain type of guys, like a shooter or a stronger guy or a ball handler. And for me, I had a little bit of everything. I could shoot a little bit. I could dribble a little bit. I could post a little bit. You know, I was energetic. I could run the floor. I could play defense. But there wasn't one thing in particular that I was very, very good at. I was just kind of good at a little bit of everything. So it was just weird, because it was like, it was like they're interested because of the organization that I'm in with AAU, and they seen the talent. But it's very important to make sure you go to a school that's gonna help you at your position and what you want to be and where you want to go. And for me, obviously, the big goal was to make it to the NBA. And with my size and my weight and my talent, it would be, you know, I would be playing at a small forward, like wing position. But a lot of the times when you're in high school and you're a big guy, they force you to play on the inside. And even in AAU, I was like a wing or a four-man, you know. So it wasn't like I was getting those reps that I needed at the small forward spot. So it was important for me to make sure that I choose the right school that would help me hone the skills that I needed in order to make it to the next level. And it was like, it was just a weird situation, you know what I'm saying? So I had like people around, like coaches and scouts and you know, people that were around the Georgia Stars organization, and they would tell me this and tell me that, and I would train and I would work on as much as I could. But, you know, if I would have got what I wanted early, and they would have told me, oh, we want you to play center. I wanted to go to Maryland so bad, I probably would have just said, okay, I don't need to work on my jumper anymore. I'm just going to play center. You know what I'm saying? Because I was so young and I wanted that so bad. Who knows what I would have, you know, who knows how I would have took it, and who knows how that conversation would have went. So that's why I say I'm glad that I didn't get it right away, because through that period, I was like, I'm just going to work on everything. You know what I'm saying? So whatever they need from me, I'll be able to do, because I've been working on everything. And by the time they come and get me, if they tell me that they want me to be a wing, or they tell me they want me to play the four, I would have had enough experience and had enough reps at both of those positions to know that I can do it, you know? So, you know, again, if they would have came at me early and just said, you know, we looking for a point guard, you know, or we want you to play a position that you're not necessarily good at, but we're going to take you. We're just going to work with you. Like, you know, I might not have been working on things that I was working on at the time. So, you know, I'm glad it went the way it went. And because of that, you know, I was able to get experience and do what I'm doing now. And I probably wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't have, if I didn't go out there and work on all those parts of my game that early, because it's kind of like what I'm doing now. So it's what's keeping my career afloat, being able to do multiple things and play multiple positions.
Yeah, that was fire. Like that was a lot of good nuggets in that, just about almost like not being complacent once you get what you want. Very cool. So we're getting these wins, you know, like start with the dream. You're getting AAU teams coming up to you. People are wanting you there. You're getting wins on your high school team. You're getting wins, getting the offers and letters. Now you got Maryland. So you're at Maryland. You're at your dream school. You got the turf on your chest. What's that feeling like to know that you're one level away from that dream you had when you were a little kid?
Well, when I first went there, when I first got there, I was excited because the they had just won the national championship like 2 years before I got there, so they were still kind of like on a high from that. And the guys that I was replacing, um, a lot of those guys were still seniors, so it was like 5 or 6 seniors on the team, and I was an incoming freshman along with a couple other guys, and it was kind of like they knew that I wasn't going to necessarily get the opportunity that I wanted because those seniors, they had seniority, and a lot of those guys had a lot of NBA opportunities. So the coach wasn't going to sit them out, to play a freshman, especially because I wasn't like a McDonald's All-American or anything like that. So it was kind of a weird situation, but it worked out because I was able to learn a lot, and I was able to practice a lot and prove myself in practice. And in the beginning of the season, I got a lot of minutes early, and I had actually we played a tournament at Madison Square Garden, and I got in the game. We was playing St. John's, and it was on ESPN, and I got in the game kind of like towards the end, and I was hungry. I was a freshman. I was just waiting on my opportunity. I'd been killing in practice. I felt like I was ready to play, so I got into the game, and I was aggressive. And I remember I shot a three and I missed it. And I looked at the bench, and the coach automatically turned around and was ready to sub me out. I don't know why, because we were winning and the game was kind of like almost over. But I guess it was that short rope that coaches have with their freshmen. They want to make sure they run the play. They want to make sure they play like a team. So I'm out there and I'm trying to be aggressive. I shot a three and missed, and I saw him ready to stub me out. So I'm like, okay, I know I'm about to come out the game. So now I really got to do something. So I'm running back on defense, and I'm trying to get a stop. We ended up getting a stop, and when we came back on offense, I shot another three. I missed it, but my teammate got the rebound, and I just cut down the paint. He passed it to me. As soon as I got the ball, I just jumped, and I dunked on one of the St. John's players, and it made the top 5 in the ESPN like that night. So I saw like the whole sequence happen on TV, and I was like, dang, like the coach didn't even see it happen because he had his back turned. He was ready to sub me out. So when I dunked it, he didn't see, but everybody else saw it, and the whole crowd went crazy. My teammates went crazy. I made top 5 on ESPN. Like, that was like my first thing as a freshman, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, welcome to college. Madison Square Garden, it was huge for me, And then after that, I didn't get any more clock for the rest of the tournament. So it was like, I was cool with that, though. I'm like, I'm a freshman. I got, I know I got 3 years in front of me. I know I got a guy that's going to get drafted to the NBA, playing my same position in front of me. So it was cool because I got to be under his wing, and he got to show me the ropes on and off the court. And he ended up getting drafted. And when he left, I ended up moving into that spot, and I had a lot of responsibility from that point forward. But just those little moments that I had as a freshman during my freshman year kind of kept me, it kind of kept me happy, and it kept me hungry as well. Because I was looking at it like, shoot, if I can make the top 5 as a freshman off of one play, imagine what I can do when I really get clocked, So that's how I always looked at it. I always had a positive outlook on everything, no matter what the situation was. I wanted to make the best out of it, just because I was thankful I had the opportunity, and I knew what I was working for, and I knew what my goals were. So I wasn't down on myself at all. And actually, funny story was when the season was over and the off season started, and everybody was going their separate ways. I called the coach. This was when Gary Williams was at Maryland at the time. I called him and I was like, yo, can I have a meeting with you? And, around this time, for him, usually he's looking at it like, okay, I got a freshman guy. He's coming from Oak Hill Academy. He thought he was probably going to get a lot of clock this year. It didn't work out. And now he's calling me and asking me for a meeting. Automatically, he's thinking I'm going to ask to transfer, to go to another school. This is what he's thinking. So I walk into his office and I sit down, and he's like, kind of timid about the conversation, like, break the news to me. Like, what are we here for? And I just told him, like, yo, I want to play next year. Like, I want to do whatever it takes to make sure that I'm starting and I get all the clock I need to get. And I want to be one of the main guys that you look to help this team win. Tell me what I got to do. And he was just caught completely off guard because he was expecting a totally different conversation. And from that point, I think he gained a lot of respect from me because he thought I was ready to give up and he thought I was ready to move on. But, I flipped the script on him and came at him from a whole different angle. And from that point, he was like, I can depend on this guy. And I kind of gained captain status at that point. And I was able to be team captain for 2 out of 3 years I was at Maryland.
Like, what helped you kind of develop that mentality, kind of the not, settle down and the not only take what's offered to you, kind of like say, I want to be more?
I think it probably comes from my mother, to be honest. Cause I'm a quiet guy, but I observe a lot. And growing up, watching her, we moved around a lot as when I was a kid. I think I was probably in a different house, a different city, different state, like every single year, all the way up until I was in the 9th grade in high school. We moved a lot just because my mom was always trying to find a good situation for us. And the places that we went to were great. Obviously, people were there and people were settled and people had been in those places for years and decades. But for my mom, she was like, nah, this is not enough. We'll get to one place and everything will be cool. And she was like, nah, this is just a stepping stone. And I would get settled and I would find friends and I would get comfortable. She, all right, we're packing up, we're moving again. You know what I'm saying? But every single time we moved, it was an upgrade, right? So I would always look at that and I always saw that. And I just, I noticed, like, my mom, she's not settling. She's always looking for better opportunities, a better situation for me and my sister and for her. And it just turned out good for us because, we all made it to points in our lives where we can say that we made the right decisions. So I think I developed that from her and just growing up like that and always knowing that there's always something better. And plus, when we moved to better situations and better locations, I started to meet friends who come from affluent backgrounds and have, family members or family or fathers and mothers who were millionaires and had mansions and things like that. Like I was around these people. So I always knew that there was more out there. And I always knew that there was more out there for people who looked like me. So that was a lot of motivation for me, just knowing that no matter what I have in front of me, there's always something that I can do to help better my situation. So I never settled with anything that I have or anything that I was given. I always wanted more. I always wanted to push things to the limit just to see how far I can go.
I love it, man. I think, like, I don't know, you can hear, like, the hunger you kind of just had, like, just from day one. You were like, this is my goal. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I'm achieving this goal because this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So once you're here at Maryland, you're in the next few seasons, you have the opportunity to go pro. How did that look for you?
Mm-hmm.
How was that journey, like the next phase of your chapter?
Well, to be honest, it was kind of tough. I came out of Maryland, and I didn't really have that much NBA. I didn't have that notice from the NBA that I wanted, that I expected. But I stayed optimistic through it all. The struggle that I had in the beginning was finding an agent. I had agents approaching me and trying to, talk to me and pretty much tell me everything I wanted to hear. My father actually retired from basketball so that he could help with this whole process. And we met with a lot of agents, and some of them, said that I had a lot of NBA looks. And then some of them was like, you don't really have any, but if you sign with me, I can get you here. Da, da, da. So, we were just trying to weigh our options. And I ended up going with an agent that I felt comfortable with. And, he was able to get me a lot of looks. I think I had like 7 or 8 workouts with different NBA teams. I was training the whole summer. I felt like all of my workouts were good except probably the first one I did, and that was just because it was my first one. And luckily, that team wasn't very interested in me. It was just kind of like, oh, I went to Maryland, so obviously the Washington Wizards was going to give me a look just because I went to Maryland, but they weren't really interested in me as far as like drafting me. So I went, and it was a good experience. And from that, I learned, exactly what I need to be ready for. So when I went on the other tryouts, they all went well. My agent, told me that he got great feedback from everybody, but nobody was really biting as far as trying to draft me or trying to bring me out for another workout. So I didn't have that type of situation. So it was kind of like I can hope and pray for a draft spot, but I knew that it was kind of like far-fetched at that point, but I didn't stop working. I just knew that for me it was like, well, if you shoot for you shoot for the stars and land on the moon. My father played overseas and played basketball overseas for decades, and he went to a D3 school and was top leading scorer. I think he still holds the record for leading scorer in D3, and he made it overseas and had a lengthy career and actually retired to see me play my last year in college. And then after I graduated, he went back to finish his career overseas. So it was like I always knew that, okay, I could always go play overseas, but I want to go play in the NBA. So I got to figure this out and do what I need to do in order to give myself that opportunity. So I didn't get drafted, and I ended up getting a spot with the Hawks to go to the Summer League. So that was like another chance. And when I got to the Summer League, it was terrible for me. I didn't get any clock there. It was a totally different system than I was used to in college. It was very hard for me to adjust, and it just wasn't a good look. And I didn't get the opportunity that I wanted through that. So from that point, the way they broke it down to me was you can go to the D League and stick around, and then if you are a standout in the D League, then you might possibly be able to get a spot in the NBA. But if not, then you're going to be stuck here. This is how much D League players make, and this is what it is. And then we also have some opportunities for you overseas, and this is how it's going to go over there, and this is how much you're going to make if you go there, and there's the upside here and the upside here. So what do you want to do? So for me, I was like, man, I'll just go overseas. I'll go overseas and see what happens there. And if I have a good season and I get a good deal next year overseas, I'll compare that to me going to Summer League and trying again with the NBA. And we'll make the best decision then. So that's what I did. And I went overseas. I went to France my first year, and I had a great season there. A team that had just moved up from the third division. Wasn't expected to make playoffs or anything. We ended up making the playoffs. I led the team in scoring, and we made it to the first round of playoffs. Did way more than expected, and I was able to triple my contract money wise the next year, and I had that on the table, and then I had some opportunities for different teams in the NBA for Summer League on the table as well, and I just weighed my options and decided that I didn't want to chase it. I wanted to do well overseas and see if I could make an opportunity to where I could get some type of guarantee in the NBA if they really wanted me, because I didn't want to chance it. I had a deal on the table, and if I turned that down to go chase the NBA and didn't make it, then I would be stuck in the D League, and that's something that I just didn't want to do. I just wanted to avoid that. So, that's just how it went.
Totally respect that. But for you, like having your dad have that experience as well, what was maybe his advice or his thoughts on you going overseas? Or did he share anything like that at all?
My dad, he was, to be honest, I think he might have been kind of disappointed because he wanted more for me as well. And he had already done that. He's like, I already played overseas for 10 years. I know what it is. And I want better for you, So my goal was to make it to the NBA. His goal for me was for me to make it to the NBA. And, I think he did what he could do to help guide me and then lead me in the right direction. And, I don't really want to say that it was bad decisions on my part as far as like the school that I went to or, sticking with a situation that I could have probably, made a better decision on or or it could have, you can point the finger at anything, but at the end of the day, I always look at it like, my journey is my journey, and I'm where I'm supposed to be for a reason. It's just a matter of me figuring out why, So, I think he was kind of disappointed as I was, not getting drafted, and for me to make that decision to come back overseas and not pursue the NBA again, I'm pretty sure he might have been upset about that as well. But at the end of the day, it's my career, and I got to make the decisions that that I feel suit me. And he supported me through it all, and my mother supported me as well. So it is what it is, and I'm here, and I'm still playing, and I'm having a great career.
So for anyone listening that, had the NBA dream and, but they don't really know about the overseas life, how is it different? Like, besides maybe, like, is the lifestyle different? Is it just the money? Like what makes overseas a different beast in the NBA?
Well, it's totally different because, if you're coming from a high-level D1 school, you get top-of-the-line treatment. You get top-of-the-line trainers, top-of-the-line coaches, facilities. Your traveling is A1. We were traveling. We were chartering planes. You know what I'm saying? We would get gear whenever we wanted. We per diem, all that. So it was like a totally different scenario when you're overseas, especially for me, my first couple of years. There's no more charter planes. There's no more top of the line training and treatment. The coaching is okay, but it's not like world-renowned coaches like, Hall of Fame coaches like Gary Williams. These guys, some of these coaches are coming from backgrounds that have nothing to do with basketball, and they just kind of learn it from a book. You know what I'm saying? And it's just totally different. The facilities, not top of the line. Some of these places that we play in are like will be considered high school gyms back home. We're talking about going from somewhere that's a gym that can seat 30,000 people to a gym that can seat maybe 1,500. So it's different because it's a bit of a downgrade. But if you think about it, the money and the compensation that you get as a player, it supersedes any negative or drop off that could happen from the facilities and coaching and all that other stuff. So it's like you can complain about all these different things, and then when you get your check, it's like, well, I wouldn't get no check in college. You know what I'm saying? And then some of these guys in the NBA are making less than a lot of these guys that are making overseas. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what are you really in it for? Are you in it to be a professional basketball player and make a living off of your game, or are you in it for all the perks? For me, I was like, it's cool to do the charter thing and do all that, but I didn't really care too much about that stuff. It was cool. I did it, it was impressive, but for the most part, just put me on the court, give me a ball, and let me do what I do. And then, when my job is done, give my check, and I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So that's the mentality that you kind of have to develop when you get over there. But in the beginning, it's tough to make that transition. And, and that's just speaking from me coming from Maryland. A lot of guys didn't go to Maryland. Some of the guys went to lower like mid-major schools or D2 or D3 schools, and they didn't have all the perks that I had, so making the transition for them might not be as hard as it was for me, So, but luckily for me, I was able to go overseas to stay with my dad for a week when he was playing in Finland, and I was in high school, so I got to see hands-on. Like I was there, and I saw how he was living, the apartment they gave him, the car that he was driving, the gym that he was working out in, the gym that he played in. I went to a road game. I went to a home game. I saw how they traveled. I saw the gear that they got. I saw everything. I went to the grocery store, the shoe store. I went out to the club. I did all of that, so I already knew exactly what I was getting into before I went. And I was lucky to have that. Most players have absolutely no idea what they're getting into, and it's just like a smack in the face as soon as they get off the plane. So for me, the transition wasn't as hard at all, really. And then besides the fact that I traveled so much when I was growing up, just from moving around with my family and, doing different things like vacation with my family and just going out of the country and doing things like that, I was always able to adapt to different environments anyway. So I kind of think that overseas lifestyle kind of suited me a little bit. I felt like I was kind of trained for it because I was ready for it when I decided to make that move. And it wasn't like I was super homesick when I got there. It was kind of peaceful, and it was like, all I have to worry about is basketball at the end of the day, and it worked out. I had a great rookie year. A lot of guys have a tough time making that transition and don't play as well because of it. Some players even quit because they can't do it. It's just they get homesick. Nobody's there with them. The language barrier is tough. Food is different. Guys get sick. Coach can't handle the coach. Practice too hard. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. But for me, it was just like, man, I'm just playing ball. I've seen all this stuff already. I'm good. As long as my money's on time, I don't got nothing to worry about. And that's pretty much the situation that I was in, and it worked out for me.
Dude, like you're giving a new kind of perspective on how the journey looks on different aspects of the overseas and what life is like. So with you, we go back to when we first started talking. It was about being able to play ball and take care of your family. So, so when you're overseas now, how did that look? I know you started a few businesses as well. So how did you kind of have that mindset? Okay, I want to ball, but also make something outside of the court.
Well, to be honest, I was just, like I said, my grandfather's an entrepreneur, my mother's an entrepreneur, and growing up with them, they always taught me different skills. You know what I'm saying? Like my mother, she does hair. She taught me how to cut hair. You know what I'm saying? So she taught me how to cut hair. My grandfather kind of taught me how to work on cars. And, he taught me how to cut grass when I was a kid. And, like, I just developed a whole lot of skills that will allow me to make my own job if I wanted to. I had options. I didn't necessarily have to choose basketball as a route, but I knew that was already in me and that was a passion for me, so I went after it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I should give up on or forget about all the skills that I developed along the way. So to be honest with you, when I was in high school, I was working on music. I was making beats, and I was trying to sell beats when I was in high school. I was always hustling, trying to sell CDs, doing a DJ thing. I used to make mixtapes and sell CDs when I was in high school and middle school. I used to cut hair. I used to cut my teammates' hair, my friends' hair when I was in high school. When I went to Oak Hill Academy, I set up my own little barbershop. And, in Oak Hill, you can't really leave campus unless you're playing ball like us. We were the only ones that could really leave campus like that. So most of the kids couldn't leave, and it was a lot of black kids at the school, and they just couldn't get haircuts like that. So when I came, I set up my barbershop. I was cutting hair there, charging for that. And so I was always doing little stuff like that. And I always knew that eventually when I got the money, I would be able to create a different business or different businesses based on the skills that I had. But it was just difficult when you're playing overseas because you're not home. So it's like, you're only home in the summer. So it's kind of hard to get established, something like that. So you really got to be strategic about having partnerships and doing business with other people so that you can make, those things happen. So the first thing I did after my rookie year, before my rookie year, me and my mom, we sat down and we talked, and I made a promise to her that once I got enough money that we would do a business together and do a hair salon, because she had her own hair salon when we were in Maryland before we moved. She gave that up so we could relocate, and then she still was doing her thing and making her own schedule and working for herself as a beautician, but she wasn't able to get her own salon back until I was able to get that money up to do it. So, like I said, after my rookie year, I ended up tripling my contract. And the next year, when me and her made that plan, I put away most of my money that I made each month. I set that aside, and we used that money to start a business. And we ended up starting a hair salon, and my mother ran it along, and we named it after my sister. And it was kind of like a family business, you know what I'm saying? So that was my first legitimate business that I owned. And that was just my second year playing the ball overseas as a professional. So from that point, for me, it was like I didn't really care about making money off of it. I just wanted to make sure my mom and my sister were straight. And I just wanted to use that to learn as much as I could off of the business and just learning how to run a legitimate business in general and all the things that come along with it. So I was able to get that experience and learn from it and use that to start other things and do other things on my own. And that's pretty much what I did. So from that point, I gained a lot of confidence in myself. And I knew that, I did it at 23 years old. There's no reason why I can't do something way bigger and better as I get older. And then as I got older, I met the love of my life. We ended up getting married. We had a child. And, more responsibility on my end. And I just knew that the way I was raised and being around my grandparents and seeing their relationship and how he held the family down as an entrepreneur and took care of everybody in our family. Anytime anyone needed something, they was able to go to him and get assistance, whether it's financial or whether it's just, just having a conversation and getting some guidance. I always wanted to be that person because I looked up to him in that light. And I knew that I would be able to mimic my father and gain success in the career, gain more success in the career that he chose, and be able to mimic my grandfather and gain success in the career that he chose and be that positive influence that the family needed as well. So those are my goals as I got older. When I started as a kid, it's like I want to be like my dad. I want to do what he does. I want to do what he does. And then as I got older and started to have a family, my direct example of how a family should look was my grandfather. You know what I'm saying? And my grandmother. They were together for so long and they held the family together. So then as I got older and more mature, it's like, okay, I need to be looking at him and watching him more and revisiting some of the things that he taught me growing up and try to mimic what he does. And that's pretty much what my motivation is, just from seeing them two start businesses from scratch and feed their families off of it. It's like, it's already in me to do it. It's just a matter of me being focused and making it happen.
So for anyone listening that's like maybe an overseas athlete, they want to kind of build that generational wealth. They kind of want to build something that they can turn to after the game or help family back home have something that they can kind of do for themselves as well. What will be your advice to them on how to start that journey or where to or what to think about?
Well, I would say that the professional athlete, you have so much opportunity and so much access that normal people don't have. It would be foolish for you to not take advantage of it and not develop relationships with people that can help you move farther in life. You're getting paid a good amount of money, enough to take care of yourself and possibly enough to take care of other people in your family as well. I see a lot of athletes, and I played a part of it. I played a part in it as well. We like to blow our money on things and just have fun, because we know that, if we're having a good career, then another check is going to come eventually. But it's bigger than that. Once you get older, you start to realize that once your career as a basketball is over, you still got a lot of life left over. You know what I'm saying? And the career of a basketball player is short-lived. So if you don't take advantage of the financial opportunities that you have, you'll have to start all over from scratch again once your career is over. And nobody wants to do that. So for me, if I can say anything to anyone who's listening and is interested in building generational wealth and is interested in building a legacy and making sure that they can retire comfortably and not have to work for anyone or anything like that, I would say to really educate yourself and use that free time that you have as an athlete to read and study and try to find a mentor, someone who has experience in business and investing, and really try to figure out that realm of life. Because, the rich and wealthy people of the world, they're really good at investing. They're really good at starting and running businesses. And it's all about equity and having ownership and making sure that you have something that you can pass on to your kids, on to your kids' kids, because, a 9 to 5, you can't really pass that on to anyone. So it's about ownership, and it's about using your time wisely, using your resources wisely, and not wasting too much time just, clubbing and going shopping and playing video games or whatever you do in your spare time. It's just, you should make sacrifices now while you're young and while you're getting it, so that you don't have to make those same sacrifices when you're retired and you don't have to start your life all over again. You can kind of, put yourself in a position where you can actually maybe even have a better life than you had as a professional athlete, because it's possible. I've seen it done before, and, that's something that I'm trying to make happen for myself and my family now.
Dude, that was fire. Like that quote, like you can't pass on a 9 to 5. Like,
no, you can't.
Yeah, like it's so true, man. Like you think about it, like you can't give your job to your mom, at a corporate job or a 9 to 5 job. You can't just say, "Mom, here, take over for me," or,
right.
or my daughter can take over me. So I'm glad you said that. That's definitely good perspective on that. So, are we kind of so where are you at now? So what are your goals for this next chapter as you continue to kind of grow as a business person, and as an athlete? What are your next steps?
Well, my next steps, I had a 5-year plan that I mapped out for myself about 2 years ago, and basically what it is me trying to really focus on using my money and my experience as a professional athlete to open other doors for myself and make it so that I can gain enough passive income through investing and through business ownership that would be able to cover all of my monthly expenses and make it so that I don't have to come out of pocket and use my basketball money to pay any of my bills. So that's my goal. It's kind of like a chess game that I'm trying to play right now, and just making sure I make the right moves and align myself with the right people, make the right investment, and get the right returns so that I can get the passive income that I need. And when I say passive income, I'm talking about money that comes every month like clockwork from investments that you make that you don't necessarily have to work in. So if I have a partnership with someone and we own a business together and that business is automated, or my partner might, be more hands-on with the business, or we might hire or outsource someone to work in the business, whatever it may be, the income that we get from that money goes right into paying my personal expenses for my family. So for anyone that's listening, I would suggest, if you're interested in it, the first thing you need to do is calculate exactly how much money you spend each month on bills and expenses. Once you get that number, then you take that number and figure out what type of investments you can make that can bring you those returns to cover all those expenses that you don't have to necessarily work. It could be stock market, it could be real estate, it could be any type of other business, physical business, e-commerce, online, whatever the case may be. It's just so many different revenue streams out there for you to discover and venture into that can help you figure this out. And for me, I'm just trying to focus on things that I'm passionate about. Like I wrote a book and I pretty much put my life experiences in that book and a lot of the things that I learned along this journey in that book. And through promoting that book, I'm able to sell that book and then get royalties from those sales. And eventually, the royalties that I would get from writing as an artist would be able to cover some bills eventually. And then through that book, I also explained the other businesses that I've invested in. And some of those different businesses, the cash flows I get from those businesses would be devoted to my expenses as well. So the key is just to keep your expenses low enough to where you can still enjoy your life and not be frugal to the point where you just miss out on everything fun. But keep your life enjoyable but reasonable, and make sure you don't add anything to it, but more so cut back when you need to, and make sure that you are making those investments that will bring the cash flow to cover each bill that you have, to the point where you can kind of just sit back and not necessarily have to take a basketball job if you don't want to. Or, you might have a little bit more leverage when it comes to negotiating a contract, because you don't necessarily have to take a low ball offer that a team might put on the table, because you're not hurting as bad. You know, you can sit back a little bit, and then from that point, if you do take a deal, you can stash that money, you can stack it up, you can continue investing it, or you could pass it, put it in a trust, or pass it to your kids. You know, you got options. Every dollar is not dedicated to your bills now, because you've made enough passive income to actually keep your money, and that's the plan. And I really wish that I would have known this early on in my career, because I would have made a lot different decisions. But you know, I'm glad that I know now, and I'm glad that I'm young enough to still continue to play and make a good amount of money to make this thing happen. So again, you know, that's my 5-year plan, and I'm on year 3 now. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll finish my plan in a couple months. Maybe it'll take me 5 years. Maybe it'll take me 10. Who knows? But, you know, you definitely need to plan ahead, and you definitely need to be strategic about what you want to do with this career, and what you want to do with your life once this career is over with, instead of just playing it by ear and just being in the here and now, and not really paying attention to what the future may hold. You definitely have to plan. So that's my advice to anyone who's listening, especially younger players. You know, go out there, seek information, read, study. You know, there's podcasts now, there's audiobooks now. There's a lot of information. You can go on YouTube and get educated. You can go to college on YouTube nowadays. You know what I'm saying? So for anyone that's listening, I would advise for you to use your time wisely. And just because you left college doesn't mean you have to, you stop learning. You definitely need to learn more and develop more, and make a better life for yourself and your family, because we have an opportunity to generate generational wealth as athletes. And you see some of the things that LeBron James is doing. Obviously, he's making millions of dollars, but some of those same things can be done with guys who are making thousands. You don't necessarily have to be the face of it all or own it all. You can be a partner. You can be an investor, and you can still share ownership and have equity in some of the things that even he's doing. And it's nothing as far fetched nowadays if you just align yourself with the right people, and you empower yourself and learn different things. So that's what I have to give, and that's what I'm trying to preach. And and that's the basis of my book, A Million Wins, that's out now on Amazon, and there's a Kindle version, a hard copy version is on iBooks as well. And I would encourage people to go out there and purchase it and read it, and just help change the conversations in the locker rooms. Because we talk about a lot of nonsense sometimes. I think we should be able to empower each other and help each other a lot more.
Yo, man, I'm so glad you reached out, because your message is not talked about enough. Like we always talk about, the grind on playing on the court. We always talk about the grind, or of getting the lifestyle. We don't talk about the grind about kind of keeping the lifestyle after we're done. So like for me, I was a walk on, so I never got to that that level of high level. But I think like a lot of athletes, they don't hear enough from other athletes about, yeah, man, I avoided the club and I started investing in the business. You don't hear enough about that, So much.
Right, for sure. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying your life and doing those things. I've done them, but like I said, I probably would have minimized it a little bit more and been more focused on other things early on if I would have known what I know now. I still have a lot of fun. I got a family now, so everything I do that's fun involves my family. You know what I'm saying? So, that's how I roll. But, back when I was single, I was out doing a lot of different things and spending money on useless things. But, I could have did both. I could have been investing and doing, I did the thing with my mom, and I kind of took a break and didn't keep my foot on the gas after I made that investment. And I took a couple years off from that business. I was still learning, but I wasn't expanding. And it took me a few years. And once I got married and settled down a little bit more, that's when I really got back into it. So, everything happens for a reason. And, I believe part of my purpose is to help open some people's eyes and help bring bring value to a lot of players' lives off the court. So, I think that's why I'm here.
Perfect. So where are you at right now on social media? Any websites maybe we can kind of plug right now?
Yeah, Instagram at @1,000,000wins on Instagram. My website is www.1,000,000wins.com. That's where you can purchase the book. My YouTube page, I update. I do videos. Sometimes I do motivational videos. Sometimes I might speak about some different strategies and things that players can use to help, save money. And, I did a live video and we talked about taxes, how to save money on taxes for international basketball players and things like that. I might, do some updates like that. So if you just stay tuned and follow me on Instagram and go to the website, you can get the book, and you can just, keep track of what I got going on and reach out to me anytime. I do consultations as well for players who want to learn a little bit more about some of the things I speak about. I also have partnership with the sports agency as well that I have equity in, and we help a lot of guys. I do a lot of consulting through that, and then the agent that we work with that owns the company as well. He does a lot of the deals, and he's more hands-on with the contracts and stuff. But I do a lot of consultation and a lot of mentorship with young players, and that's New Level Management Group. So you can follow them on Instagram as well, New Level MG, and that's pretty much it, man. So follow up and reach out. I'm always here. I always respond, and hopefully I can help add value to players' lives on and off the court, if possible. And I hope I'm able to do that.
Fire. Because I think your story can inspire another athlete that wants to be what for their mom wants.
For sure, man. Yeah, that's definitely good that you're actually staying in the loop and helping guys, look at things from a different perspective, because it kind of seems like, the mainstream or whatever you want to call it always puts athletes in a certain light, and you never really get to hear a different side of the story. You never really get to hear too much about the guy who was shooting for something and got hurt and decided to go a different route, but still is helping athletes, help each other, or you usually hear a story about a guy who, comes from the projects, one mom, single parent home, and he makes it and then takes it. It's like you kind of just hear the same story over and over again. So I'm glad I'm having a conversation with someone who can say, could tell a story from a different perspective. And, that's kind of what it is. And especially for me, being an overseas athlete, we hear a lot about the NBA guys. We don't really hear too much about the overseas guys, So, I'm thankful to have this opportunity to share it with you, and I'm glad we could, have this conversation.
I appreciate you, man, because like we all are LeBron, but you can be LeBron without being LeBron. You can be a smaller athlete and still have an impact on a legacy. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, well I don't hold up all your day, so I appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely be in touch soon.
Sure, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the 9 Point Started With a Dream podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment, share, leave a review. We would love to hear your thoughts. You can find more athlete-driven content at 9point.com. Till the next episode, you're only one opportunity away. Peace.